We are super fired up to be back. Hey, I want to encourage you guys to get out your binders. Jonathan Noyes, as I mentioned, is a gifted communicator, and you're going to learn some powerful truths here. But hey, in that binder, if you go to the description on this page, there's a link. You can download this program binder, and I want to encourage you to do that and read Jonathan's bio. And then at the end of this talk, we're going to talk about some discussions. But take it away, my friend.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's such a privilege to be with you guys here in studio at the Christian Youth Summit with Stephen Williams. His wife is outside. I've been talking to her, getting to know her, and what an honor it is to partner with the amazing work that they're doing here. And it's so great to be with you in the comfort of wherever you are, in your own home or with a group. And I'm hoping to shed some light on something that I think is really important and has to do with relativism, as you'll see in the presentation. And first I want to start out actually with one of my most favorite verses in the entire Bible. It's Jesus, and he says, "I am one of the ways, I'm one of the truths, and I am one of the possible life. You can come to me, you can come to the Father through me or not. Live and believe whatever seems right to you, as long as you're sincere. Oh, and as long as it doesn't hurt anybody." Does that sound familiar? It's 2 Opinions 14:6. No, of course that doesn't sound familiar because it's not in the Bible. It's nobody's favorite verse because I made it up. But I think this tells a story, and it tells a story of the way some people think the world really is. Let's look first at the corrected verse here. "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." See, this is Jesus, and these are his actual words. It's a real verse as we know it. And we don't believe in Christianity. And I like to start with this point whenever I'm speaking on this topic. I don't believe in Christianity because it makes me feel good. I'm not a Christian because it got me any more popular with my friends. It certainly hasn't made me any more money. Over the next 2 days, you'll get to know me and my story a little bit more. In fact, I've only lost a lot of money. I've lost certain friends. Yeah, I've gained some friends, but I'm not winning popularity contests. I believe Christianity because it's true. And when I say it's true, I mean it accurately reflects the way the world really is. And if it wasn't true, I wouldn't want to believe it. And so when we search our beliefs and we start digging into what we believe and why we believe it, we want to make sure that our beliefs, that they align with the way the world really is. We believe things because they're true, or at least we ought to. And the inverse is true as well. Meaning if you're holding a false view of something, it would be good for you to abandon that view upon discovering it's false. Oftentimes people ask me in the context of speaking. I'm a speaker with Stand to Reason, a fairly new speaker with them, just under a year with them, and I travel all over the place, and I speak to people just like you. They ask me, what's the biggest threat to Christianity? And oftentimes people think it's Islam, but it's not Islam. It's not Mormonism. It's not those people who come knocking on your door. It's not even atheism, to be honest with you. It's, I think, relativism. When I was an atheist, you heard me right, when I was an atheist just 13 short years ago. I believed, if you said something to me like, Jesus is the only way, the only truth, the only life, the only way to God is through Jesus, I would have responded to you with something like, well, that's really nice for you. It might be true for you, but it's not for me. I would have said something like, that really comforts you, and I'm glad that it comforts you. But yeah, it's just not my reality. So you do your thing, and I'll do mine. Today we hear in the context of you do you, and I'll do me. And then that's what I would have responded to you as an atheist. Actually, I would have gone a little bit further if I was being honest with you right now as I'm talking to you. I wouldn't have just said that it's your truth. I would have actually said it's irrational. And in fact, I probably would have said, depending on how well I know you, I would have said that your belief in God is actually dangerous. And people today, they have that view, just like I had that view 13 short years ago. They believe Christianity is not only irrational, but it's immoral. It's dangerous. Immoral in the sense that it's judgmental. If you're living your faith out at all, you've probably experienced this a little bit. You've probably been in a situation where you've taken a stance on a certain behavior, saying it's wrong. well, then you're a bigot, or you're judgmental, or any other number of things that some people will say to you. It's immoral, your religion. I've been told that it's immoral to be bringing my kids up as Christian. That's actually borderline child abuse. But are these things true? Is this descriptive of Christianity? And I don't think so, but we're going to get to that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Dangerous. People say that Christianity is dangerous. That's where I would have landed as an atheist. I'd say it's dangerous in the sense that it's exclusive, meaning it's teaching that one way is the only way. There's no option for a second road to God, for example. And oftentimes when we're talking about this out in the public square at the table of ideas, people will mention to us, they'll say, look what happens when people take exclusivistic views, especially dealing with religion. Look what happens when people take exclusive Islamic views. Well, we get terrorism. And this is what people think, and I'm not the only one who used to think this. There are people today, currently, that we all know that think this. Rosie O'Donnell, we all recognize Rosie O'Donnell. She hosts or co-hosts that show The View on national television. She said this, she said, radical Christianity is just as threatening as radical Islam in a country like America. Wow. Is that true? Well, this is what she believes, at least, about Christianity. But she's not the only one. Here we all love Bill Maher. If you don't know Bill Maher, he hosts Real Time with Bill Maher. He's an atheist host, and he's famous for saying his opinions against, well, not just Christianity, but all religion. And he says this: organized religion is dangerous and a mass psychosis. Evangelical Christians are usually the ones who are behind everything that represents, hear this, that represents intolerance and bigotry. This is how some of the major personalities in our culture today view the Christian worldview. One more for you, and in case you guys need a little bit more evidence that people maybe think it's intolerant to be a Christian or dangerous, this is Andrew Sullivan. He's a leading homosexual activist in the country today. In Time magazine, he was interviewed, and this was a while ago, and then this was in relation to President George Bush and the president of Iran. And he says, religion and religious certainty is the problem. When the presidents of the U.S. and Iran speak as much about God as about diplomacy, we've entered a new, dangerous era. You see, people out there in the world, they think that Christianity is immoral. They think it's dangerous. But is it? We have to ask ourselves. Remember, we want to believe things because they're true. The culture, I think, if we took the cultural temperature, the culture thinks right now, they think that it is. That's why I think that so many people have given themselves over to a philosophy of thinking called relativism. Now, we're going to start with some definitions, and I don't want you to sit there and be bored by definitions, but I really think it's important that we get some of the initial stuff down so that then we can have a more in-depth conversation, not only about where we are in the cultural tide, but also how we can affect the culture moving forward. After all, that's why we're here today. That's why you're giving of your time this evening. So what is relativism? It's pretty simple here. It's the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute. And when I say not absolute, they're not true for all people in all places at all times. Further definition says that relativism is belief that objective truth does not exist. Now, that's going to be an important part of this definition. If you remember this, if you have your workbook, make sure you highlight it. If you're just taking notes, note that definition, belief that objective truth does not exist. It's really important as we talk more about this. Also, relativism is the idea that there's no right and wrong outside of individual belief. Interesting. This is the view, actually. If you were to survey the college campuses around the country, I don't know how many of you guys are middle school students, high school students, how many are actually in college. This is the major view on college campuses today. And it's bolstered by a new Darwinism that's flowing through our educational classrooms, and it affects all areas of life too. And I don't have a necessary time tonight to get into that with you guys, but I would love to during the question and answer tomorrow. If you guys have questions, how this affects all areas of life, we'll get a piece of that right now. You know, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Germany and teach some Christian apologetics and preach the gospel at a German English language learning camp. And it was Christian in nature, so that's why they had me out there to teach these things. And what was amazing to me is that most of the students that I was teaching, most of the students that are your age in Germany that I was teaching, were probably, 400 or 500 at the camp. Most of them espouse relativism. And when I say that, what they mean is they applied that to all areas of their life. They said that there's no truth to religion. It's just my truth versus your truth. There's nobody to say who's actually right. They would have said the same thing about a moral standard as far as how they live their life. Now, there's basic principles that they might have agreed upon, but we're going to get to that. Don't get ahead of myself. It's interesting because relativism actually was expressed by this other famous German here. This is a caricature of this famous German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, and he has this quote: "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, the only way, it does not exist." Now, as I say this, as I'm reading this, do you guys see the problem? Do you guys see what's going on with Nietzsche's saying? He's basically saying that there is no truth. But what's he doing when he's saying there is no truth? He's making a truth claim, that there's no truth. Really, Nietzsche? So there is no truth. Is that true? I wonder. And this makes me wonder something else, actually, too. It makes me wonder, what exactly is truth? Again, it's a definitional portion of our segment, but I think it's important that we cover some of these underlying definitions. And right here in your workbooks, again, you can reference this. Don't feel the need to write down every word, but maybe just jot down a few things. Truth is that which accurately reflects reality. And then when I teach my kids, I've got 4 amazing little girls, and I'm teaching them about the world around them. I'm teaching about the Christian worldview. I say that truth is that which accurately reflects reality. Well, what do I mean by that? I mean that truth describes the world as it actually is, as it really is. That's important. Truth is also factually and logically correct, meaning it's not false. Something can't be both true and false at the same time. Truth is, by definition, exclusive. That's really important to remember. If it's true, it's not false. That means it's an exclusive claim. So when people saying that you're going to be exclusivist because you're holding a truth claim or a worldview in our instance, or a belief that stems out of our worldview, well, everybody believes exclusive. We're going to get to that. Truth is discovered, not invented. Now, this is one of my most favorite parts of this definition. Truth is discovered, not invented. You see, scientists, they discover Pluto. They don't invent Pluto. Scientists, they discover COVID-19. It's a huge issue right now. That's why we're doing it this way, this conference, this summit, because there's a virus, and the scientists didn't invent it. They discovered, and they discover things about it. See, truth is discovered, not invented. And I love that because truth exists independent of it being known. And when you relate those two last definitions of truth right here, truth is discovered, not invented, and truth exists independent of it being known, it blows my mind. There are so many truths out there that haven't even been discovered yet. I love thinking about that because as I'm talking to you, I'm 40. You guys, I don't know how old you are in your setting right now, but you are the future. And you guys are going to go discover so many more truths that are already out there, waiting to be discovered. And I love that. It's really exciting. It's also important to understand here, lastly, that truth is not belief. What do I mean by that? That's a good question. I hold a ton of beliefs, I'm sure, that are false. Hopefully not willingly. Like I said at the onset of our discussion right now, if you hold to a false belief and you learn that it's false, it probably benefits you and do you well to abandon that belief. But truth is not belief. Truth is independent of that. They're not the same thing. And that's important for our discussion as we dig into relativism, because we have to understand that belief and truth are distinguished from another. And we're going to realize that right now as we come to understand relativism and understand that there are actually two kinds of ways that something can be true. So what we have is a subjective truth claim and an objective truth claim. Now, when I say subjective truth, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about ice cream. Right now, if you're sitting with a bunch of other people right now, I want you to yell out, what's your favorite kind of ice cream? What is it? Yell it out. Yeah, so some of you guys are probably a chocolate and vanilla folks, right? The plain Janes, some of you like, the real funky stuff, Chunky Monkey, or one of my daughters loves cotton candy ice cream, right? But we all know the absolute best flavor of ice cream is mint chip. Mint chip is the best ice cream out there. Whenever there's a bowl of mint chip, in my view, I have to have it because it's the best. Well, that's my opinion, right? It's the best. Who said that mint chip is the best? I'm sure somebody did. Somebody agrees with me that it's the best. But I have a question for you. Would it make sense in this situation if I said that I like mint chip ice cream? So this is a statement I'm going to make. Mint chip ice cream is my favorite ice cream. That's a true statement. It's true. Would it make sense to say that I'm wrong about that? Would it make sense to you argue, say, no, John, mint chip can't possibly be your favorite? Well, no, that doesn't make any sense to say I'm wrong about that. Why? Because when it comes to flavors of ice cream, you can choose what you like. You have that opportunity. That option's available to you. It's a personal preference because it's subjective, having to do with you, the subject. It's not necessarily a statement about something out here. It's a statement about what's in here. So it's a subjective truth claim. It's true, but in a subjective sense. This kind of claim is known as subjective truth. And like I said, it's about the subject, you, or in this case, me, with mint chip. It's about our personal preference. It's true, but it's subjectively true. Now, that's ice cream. So when you think of subjective truth for the rest of this conversation, think of ice cream. Whatever flavor you chose is fine. Now let's think of objective truth. Now I have a question for you. If you had a condition known as diabetes, right? If you were a diabetic and your doctor, you went to him and you said, Doc, I think I got diabetes. They run all the tests and the tests all come back positive. You have diabetes, and the doctor says to you, all right, John, I'm going to prescribe that you go home every day and eat 2 pints of mint chip ice cream. Is that going to be good for you? Absolutely not. Because we all know that if you have a condition known as diabetes, your doctor is going to prescribe insulin. Insulin. So I want you to associate objective truth with insulin. And here's why. Because there is something that is prescribed by a doctor that helps every single person on the planet who has diabetes, and it's insulin. It involves getting a shot, and everybody hates shots. I hate shots. My kids hate shots. They hurt. But regardless of how we feel about the mode that we get the insulin, no matter if it hurts or not, we know that we have to take the insulin if we were diabetic because it helps, independent of how we feel about the insulin. We might not like it. It might not be our favorite thing, like mint chip ice cream, but we know that it helps. You see, when it comes to medicine, you got to choose what heals, not what you like. This kind of claim is known as objective truth. So this is an objective truth claim because it's about the object itself. The truth claim is out here, not in here, like subjective truth. Does that make sense? I hope that you guys are following me because this is really important. Because relativism at its core, the main thing that we're talking about, relativism at its core treats everything like ice cream. You choose what you like. You're the arbiter of what's true. Everything is true for you. And I understand this view because, like I said, that's the way that I was. And actually, I know a lot of people who are still relativists. But sometimes I think they have a bump into reality and they realize, wait a second, this doesn't accurately describe the way the world really is. And I think that if we just understand this stuff with a little bit of depth and learn a couple tactics, we can actually address our friends, our family, our coworkers, our fellow students, and we can actually point to the validity of the Christian worldview. So let's review by way of a test. I know you guys all want to take a test right now. Excuse me. And it's not COVID-19, I hope. No. Let's do a truth test, okay? It's not going to be graded, but let's see how you guys do. And now, you guys in your packets, or if you're downloading the PDFs of the slides, don't cheat, okay? Try to put the cheat sheet away because you guys have all the answers already. I'm going to say a claim, and I'd love for you guys out there to tell me whether it's objective insulin or subjective ice cream. Simple enough, right? Okay, let's start with this one. John is wearing a hot pink shirt. John is wearing a hot pink shirt. What do you guys think? You think it's objective or subjective? Does it have to do with the object itself, or does it have to do with my opinion about it? Who thinks it's objective? Raise your hand. Right there, in wherever you are, raise your hand. Who thinks it's subjective? Raise your hand. See, it's really fun because I can't see you, but all of those who said objective, you're right. See, the claim is about my shirt. I'm not wearing a hot pink shirt, and this is important to understand, so I'm going to kind of go slow down just for a minute. This is important to understand. The claim can be false or true. It's either true or false, but it's objective because it's about the object itself. It doesn't matter if I think my shirt is hot pink. It doesn't make it so. My shirt is actually a certain way. My opinion about it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? So let's try it again. Let's look at the next claim. This one's clearly objective. Blue is the best color. Blue is the best color. What do you guys think? Objective or subjective? Well, for those of you who said subjective, you're absolutely right. It's a matter of personal preference. I happen to think blue is the best color. Excuse me. Blue, I think, is the best color, but it's my personal opinion. It doesn't have anything to do with the qualities of blueness, but it's Johnness. It's my personal opinion. There might be some of you right now that are watching this that think blue's the best color, and it's our subjective claim to truth. Let's do another. Oh, this is a good one. 2 + 2 is 4. Okay. Who here thinks that's objective? Who thinks it's subjective? Yeah, see, this is an objective truth claim. It doesn't matter what you think of it. If it's objective, that means it's true regardless of your opinion. You can say 2 + 2 is 5. It doesn't change the fact that it's 4. Does that make sense? It's objectively true. Okay, let's see here. Oh, vacations are best when snowboarding. Vacations are best when snowboarding. What do you guys think? Objective or subjective? Ice cream or insulin? Ice cream or insulin? Well, this one here is subjective. I personally think vacations are best when snowboarding. I'm here in Bend, Oregon, where some of the best snowboarding in the world is. It's actually snowing outside right now. I personally think vacations are best when they involve snowboarding. You might like the beach. You might like the mountains and the hiking. But it's a matter of your personal preference. Are you guys picking this stuff up? I hope so. Excuse me. God exists. This is getting into the nitty-gritty. God exists. Objective or subjective? Yeah, it's an objective claim. See, either God exists or he doesn't. Very important to understand. God either exists or he doesn't. My opinion about whether he exists or not doesn't make him exist or not. How I feel about God, if I'm mad at God, if I'm angry at God, if I love God and I'm pleased with God, doesn't make him exist or not. He either exists or not. It's an objective claim to reality. Jesus is the only one to salvation for all people. Objective or subjective? Yeah, see, this is objective. He either is the only way to salvation or not. Now let's speed it up a little bit. Murder is immoral. This sometimes gets people, it trips them up, but it's an objective truth claim. You see, it's either immoral or it's not. It has to do with the action of murder, not my feelings about murder. Murder is wrong or it's not wrong. In this case, the claim is murder is immoral. It's an objective truth claim. Elective abortions are immoral. It's the same thing, objective truth claim. You see, it has something to do with the object, not the subject. It's not my personal preference. You see why this is important? You know, sometimes I think we ask ourselves, like, who cares, right? Famous philosopher Francis Beckwith, he teaches at Baylor. He had a student when they were discussing this, he asked this. He said, the student asks, "You've talked a lot about truth, but why does truth even matter?" And his response highlights why this matters. Do you want the true answer or the false answer? Why is this important? Do you want the true answer or the false answer? You see, people today, they think morality and religion are like ice cream, not insulin. You just pick what you like. Do what's good for you. It might not be good for the other person. They think religion and morality are subjective truths, not objective truths. That's important. Jot that down. Unfortunately, the problem's affected both college students and teens, just like you. Let's look at some just quick statistics as we ramp things up and then conclude for the evening. American youth, like American adults, are nearly without exception profoundly individualistic. The typical bywords, the bywords meaning the typical sayings of the day, are, "Who am I to judge?" If that's what they've chosen, whatever. Each person decides for himself. And if it works for them, fine. Some version of this individualistic subjectivism and relativism is the dominant assumed viewpoint about religion among most contemporary adolescents. Now, this was written years ago. Christian Smith is a professor of sociology at Notre Dame. And this is true for maybe a lot of your friends. This might be true for you sitting there if you believe this. This is interesting. Maybe we're challenging some of your assumptions, your beliefs. In Closing of the American Mind, a wonderful book by Alan Bloom from 1987. Okay, this is dated, but it's still true. There's one thing a professor can be absolutely certain of. Almost every student entering the university believes or say she believes that truth is relative. The students, of course, can't defend their opinion. It's something with which they've been indoctrinated. You see, this is why it's important to understand these things, because even as you're sitting in public school, or a lot of private schools even, are teaching you that truth is always subjective. And yes, there are subjective truths, but there's also objective truths. The big things of life, I would argue, oftentimes are in the objective realm. They're insulin, not ice cream. So let's look at some statistics here regarding truth and religion, okay? One study, this is from, according to Barna, they said conservative, Protestant, Baptist, you name some denomination, teens affirm there's only one true religion. That's 46%. 46% of conservative Protestant teens say there's only one true religion. That means that there's 34% that say that there's many roads that lead to God. That's interesting. 26% of mainline Protestant teens affirm there's only one true religion. 26% of mainline Protestant teens would believe that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus' words. That means, what's that, 74% don't. This is religious pluralism, friends, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we move on. But keep in mind our opening Bible verse, the fake one. You know, I'm one of the ways. I'm one of the truths. You can come to me or not. Religious truth is subjective. It's ice cream. That's what a lot of people, the majority, these studies would say. Let's look outside of the realm of religion and moral absolutes here. 32% of Christian adults believe in moral absolutes. That means 68% don't. Only 15% of non-Christian adults believe in moral absolutes. That means there's one right way. That means it's the last few questions that we asked, murder is wrong. Only 15% of non-Christian adults could affirm that statement as being objectively true. 9% of Christian teenagers believe in moral absolutes. 9% of your peers, according to this study, believe in moral absolutes. That means 91% don't. 4% of non-Christian teenagers believe in absolutes. You see how the percentages drop once we get into your age range as a teen. This is moral relativism. It's one system it can't be more morally correct or better than any other. Moral values are relative to your personal experience, and the church can't adopt relativism without having serious consequences, friends. You see, this is why this is all important. The last few minutes of our talk tonight together, our time together, it's really important because ideas have consequences. When I was in Germany, I was able to take a trip to Auschwitz and tour that concentration camp and her sister concentration camp, and the realities of what happens to a society and a culture when it shuns the idea or the understanding that there's objective truth in the moral realm became vivid, incredibly alive. It was unbelievable walking in Auschwitz, where it was a beautiful day. It was June or July, maybe 85 to 90 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, thousands of people around me and not a sound. You could hear a pin drop because people could feel the weight of what had happened there. There's this German saying, Lebensunwertes Leben, and it means life unworthy of life. You see, this was the central part of the ideology that led to the Third Reich. This is the type of thing that justified the Holocaust. It's largely understood and believed that Stalin gave to Hitler Nietzsche's writings. Nietzsche, the guy with the funny mustache that we looked at before, that says, as for the true way, the right way, it does not exist. You see, relativism, when lived out, has real consequences, and we're going to get to that. And the Holocaust is just one in recent examples that we can come to understand. So here are some of the consequences. Let's look at the first one. Relativism, it undermines sin. It's a major consequence. Why is that? Well, think about it, okay? The only way that sin is real is if there's an objective standard out there, if there's an objective standard giver, if there's an objective way to live. Because if there's not, then it doesn't matter how you live, there's no sin, right? If relativism's true, then there's no objective morality, a standard by which we determine right and wrong. So if that standard doesn't exist, we can't violate it, in other words. So no objective morality, no sin. That's important. Write that down. No objective morality, no sin. No sin, no guilt. No guilt, no need for
everybody's getting in on the comments, and
Oh, really?
yeah, and you can let people know to chime in if you want to the comments section.
Only nice things.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, very close here.
We can hear that.
Oh, cool.
Oh, here it's coming back.
So is it coming back?
Yeah.
Hey guys, technical difficulties. I think you guys might have seen that in the comments. Stephen was frantically trying to let you guys know. I'm so sorry. I thought maybe it was the rapture.
Right.
Maybe we were out of here.
Right.
But no, it's not. And if you're watching, I hope that you can pick up where we left off. And I'm going to try to pick up my pace a little bit so I can still try to end on time. And get through all the material. But we'll see what happens. Okay, so we were looking at the consequences of what happens when relativism creeps its way into our moral system of living. And one of the major consequences is relativism undermines sin. We said ultimately, if there's no objective morality, there's no sin. If there's no sin, there's no guilt. If there's no guilt, there's no need for a pardon. No pardon, well, no need for Jesus. Ultimately, relativism undermines the gospel, friends. I think that's important for us to take away tonight. It undermines the gospel. We see relativism in the scriptures as right at the end of Judges. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And we're going to come back to this verse possibly in a couple of minutes and take a deeper look at it. But this is what happens when relativism creeps its way into sin. It creeps its way into our system of belief. It diminishes sin. Relativism also undermines the mission of Jesus. What's the mission of Jesus, friends? We all should know it, right? Go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded. If relativism is true, that doesn't matter. Jesus's words are completely, they're just a matter of opinion. Yeah, you can do it or not. Teach what? Teach stuff that might be true for you, but not for me. If relativism is true, there's no obligation to do that. We just need to think about it. I think it makes sense as we think about these things and how the ideas of relativism may have already crept into some of you guys. And as you sit there, you might be struggling with this. Oh, wait a second. Is he saying that what I believed is maybe I should question it? If relativism is true, then Christianity is just one of many true religions. That's just a fact. Like if relativism is true, choosing a religion is like choosing your favorite kind of ice cream. But is that true? If Christianity is not the only true religion, well, what's the motivation for evangelism? That's another consequence of undermining our mission. Why go and make disciples if it doesn't ultimately matter? I'll tell you what, sometimes being a Christian's hard. I don't know about you, but my life, some people live under the impression that when you come to Christ, life just gets good and nothing bad happens to you. I don't know about you guys. That just hasn't been my story. So let's take just another look at what you get when you get religion plus relativism. We all see the bumper sticker coexist. And so it's because this is what you get when you apply relativism to religion. Religious pluralism. It's believing that choosing a religion is like choosing your favorite flavor of ice cream, choosing whatever you like. Pick the religion that's true for you. Get the one that gives you the most comfort or makes you the most money or makes you most popular. That's what we get. That's a consequence when relativism seeps into religion. Well, how about morality? We saw a little bit of it, but this is called moral relativism. When you apply relativism to morality, this is what you get. It's the idea that what's right and wrong is totally up to you. A moral relativism is relative to the person. I'm the master of my own ship. I choose what's right and wrong. But if morals are subjectively true, what are people going to do when you say things like morals are relative? Why shouldn't you shouldn't judge other people? Well, why not? If it's all just a relative, I'm going to judge whoever I want. Who are you to tell me what to do? You turn it around on them. We're going to see that in a second here. There's no king on moral relativism. There's no king. There's no standard to live by. There are no rules. When there's no God, that's when that standard gets hazy and foggy, and you lose sight of that objective standard. And I actually think that a lot of us today in the church live as functional, moral relativists, maybe. 34%. We saw the statistic. 34% of Christian adults said the moral truth is objective. 9% of Christian teens said moral truth is objective. How about you? I'd love you to wrestle with this, and we're going to have a question and answer tomorrow, and I'd love to hear your questions on it. Now, I want to just briefly touch on this. It's called the trick of tolerance, and I think it's important because oftentimes I think one of the reasons why relativism has become so popular is because of the fear or the awkwardness of saying that we think we're right while others are wrong. We're afraid of being labeled intolerant, is what it's. This fear, I think, is unjustified because people are confused about what tolerance actually is. And I'm just going to fly through these two definitions, but this makes me sad, right? When you get called, you're intolerant. It doesn't make you feel good, but maybe you're holding up to a certain belief. Maybe you're saying abortion is wrong, or maybe you're saying marriage is for one man and one woman, or maybe you're saying Islam is false, or maybe you're saying and anything else about any of the social issues that we're wrestling with as a society and a culture today. You get labeled as intolerant. Anytime you take a moral stand, it sometimes feels like. But it's a misunderstanding and a misapplication of the true definition of tolerance. Culturally speaking, we want to believe that tolerance is total agreement with people, accepting of all ideas. More than accepting, it's actually lent itself now to affirming all ideas. But the real definition, and this is one for you guys to think about, of tolerance is to recognize and respect others' beliefs and practices without sharing them. That's key, without sharing them, to bear or put up with someone or something not necessarily liked. That's important for us to understand. Next time somebody says that you're intolerant, ask them what they mean by intolerant. Because in order for me to tolerate something, I have to not enjoy it. I have to not agree with it. I have to not like it. That's the very definition of tolerance. So I think that we can press into that. So now there's the confusion of the proper meaning of tolerance, and we've looked at the two definitions. Let's learn a tactic and a solution with our last maybe 3 or 4 minutes together. It's called taking off the roof. And I think, and I've found that this tactic is so valuable when you're pressed on these issues. When relativism seems to be sneaking itself into the conversation, look to this tactic. And it's really, really simple. And I'm going to go pretty quickly just to make up time. But everything that I'm going to be saying, you guys can read in Greg Kokel. He's my boss. I'm not just bumping this because he's my boss. Before I was with Stand to Reason, before I even knew Greg Kokel personally, I actually bought a copy of this book, not the updated one that just came out, but the older version. I bought a copy for every single student in our youth group. I wasn't a youth pastor or anything like that. It's just a volunteer. But this book is so valuable. Make sure you pick it up. Everything I'm going to be saying is in there. So this is one solution, and it's so simple. You guys aren't going to believe how simple the tactics we're going to be going over this weekend are to memorize. It's simple. It's simply 3 steps. You memorize these 3 steps, you've got taken off the roof down, and you can start to address your friends, your family, your coworkers, your fellow students when they're espousing relativistic views, or when they call you intolerant, or when they say Christians are bigots, or anything like that. The first step is just adopt the person's view. Adopt their view. Put it on. Take it out for a test spin. Follow their view to its logical but absurd conclusions. And then ask a question that graciously exposes the absurdity of the view. 3 steps, super simple. You know what? It's so simple that you guys already see it. You guys already know what we're doing. And this is a great example. You guys know what happens. Okay, you have a dad and his daughter, and he asks, hey, why'd you start smoking? And what's the daughter say? Well, she says, because all my friends are doing it. And now, right now, as you're sitting there, what's the dad's response? You know, some of you have probably gotten it. I used to get this all the time. If all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you? You see what he did? He adopted her position. All my friends are doing it, therefore I'm going to do it. He reduced it to its absurd claims and then pointed it out. Would they jump off? If they jump off a cliff, would you? Well, of course not. Not only do we see it in everyday life like this already, it's intuitive to us almost. Jesus, we saw it from him. As the Pharisees in Matthew 12, they say Jesus is out there casting out demons, and they press him and say, this man casts out demons only by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons. And some of us might know Jesus' response. He says this. He turns the table and he practices taking the roof off. He says this to them. Any kingdom divided against itself is laid to waste. And any city or household divided against itself shall not stand. If Satan casts out Satan, he's divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? You see, Jesus, what he did is he took on that person's that view. He took it around for a test spin, and then he reduced it to its illogical conclusions. If I'm casting out demons by Satan, that means Satan's casting out Satan. It makes no sense. So let's put it in some practical things here for you. Last 3 minutes. I've said that like 6 times. I'm going to go another hour. Morals are relative, and what's right and wrong is up to you. Oh my gosh, I get this all the time, guys. Do what you want. Morals are relative. Do whatever makes you happy. Well, let's take the roof off of this one, okay? Here are your 3 steps down in the corner if you have your printouts, right? If you adopt that view, what logically follows? Well, what logically follows, friends, as I adopt that view is I can punch you in the face as hard as I want. Because if morals are up to me, if they're all just relative, I can do whatever I want. And here's a real life example, guys. Such a good example. Okay, my brother is an atheist, and I'm talking to him, and he's a vegan, vegan atheist. Yeah, he's adopted. And we're talking about the existence of an objective moral standard out there, moral realism in the world. And he's defending morals being social contract theory. Basically, it's just moral relativism. And I say to him, Dan, you know what, enough talking about this. We're not going to agree on this. Let me ask you, would you want to go on vacation with me and a couple friends? What we do is we go to Lake Arrowhead in California, and we camp out, and it's a lot of fun, a couple guys. And the best part is Saturday, we all chip in $20. And we go into town, we buy a big 50-gallon drum of sulfuric acid. And then what we do is we rent a rowboat, and we take it on the lake, and we place bets on how many fish are going to be killed when we dump the sulfuric acid into the lake. You want to come? It's going to be so much fun. And the best part is whoever gets closest to the number of fish and their guess wins all the money. So you could win some money too. And by that point, my brother's veins are sticking out of his neck. He literally, I saw them. He had flames coming out of his ears. It was nuts. And he was flipping out. And his response was what? No, you can't do that. No, that's not right. That's not good. You can't do that. And I said, whoa, Dan, according to my culture, my immediate friend group, that is completely acceptable. I can do that because we think it's fine. Who are you to tell me what's right and wrong? You see what I did is I adopted his view, I reduced it to its logical conclusions, and then I pointed it out to him by giving him an example they could flip out about. Let's look at one more. All religions teach the same thing. Okay, all religions are true is how we normally hear it. Well, except they're not. You know, what logically follows, it's absurdity, and I'll explain it just really quickly. What do we know? What do we know about Christianity that's not true of, say, Judaism or Islam? Well, it's the Sunday school answer. It's Jesus, right? I mean, we have Jesus, they don't. So they can't all be true. All you need to do in this is show that there's one difference between them. It's as simple as that. And now I'm going to wrap up in the hopes that we can make up some questions tomorrow, because I really want to address them. I had to fly towards the end there. But let me just close with this final thought. You know, taking off the roof works because humans, they're made in the image of God, and we have to live in God's world that He created and play by God's rules that He put into place. Denying this, it creates tension. And we, by taking the roof off of people's views, by doing those 3 steps, adopt the other person's view, follow their view to its logical and absurd conclusion, and ask a question that graciously exposes the absurdity of that view, we can expose, taking that roof off, we can expose that tension in the hopes of pointing people out that hold false views of reality, that there's a better view, that there is a God, and that we're made in the image of God, and there's a moral objective standard out there. And we've all sinned, and we've all fallen short of the glory of God, and we all need that forgiveness that Jesus offers, and that's where it leads to. So as I leave you tonight, guys, I encourage you to be not just motivated to learn this stuff that you're going to be learning tonight, and you're going to hear a wonderful story next, but be motivated to go out and share the objective truth about relativism with others in the world. And you can start that by doing your discussion questions.
Yeah.
Stephen?
Jonathan, awesome, my friends. Good stuff. You guys, isn't this power? Don't you just feel like, whoa, I never realized that before. You guys, there's some great discussion questions, like I mentioned in the booklet here, that you can download, and it's on page 3. Discuss it and talk about it and mull this over and shoot out some comments or questions. But like Jonathan said, tomorrow at about 2:55, John's going to do a Q&A that you guys are going to ask questions during that time, and we're just gonna on the spot ask them, and John's going to just wing it.
Just easy ones.
Have a fun time. Right on. So thanks, you guys. Hey, also, everyone, don't forget to subscribe. Go up above to the upper right there. Subscribe to this channel so that you'll be able to stay connected. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys in about 15 minutes.
Praise the Lord.